You either use the internet for fun or you use the internet to grow. You're here to grow. Welcome to TRS Clips. Have you dealt with like a sort of long-term case with like serial killers or anything like that?
Not serial killers per se, but I remember a case where two friends, they loved each other for a long, long time, lived just north of Toronto, outskirts of Toronto, in a smaller town, and one lent, I think it was $250,000 in I don't know, maybe about 30 years ago. So $250,000 would be like $1 million today or something like that. So lent $250,000, and then something happened, and then this guy is not giving his money back. Okay, so I remember to me it was like a really interesting case, because now I'm working with this group of officers who are tracking a big tractor trailers, big trucks, who steal electronics, and then they immediately take them off to a ship, and then that ship takes it to somewhere in Asia or somewhere in another country. So this is a big thing that we're working on, and all. And then so this guy, they're both in their 60s or something like that, maybe late 50s and 60s. The guy who lent the money decided that he wants to kill this guy, but then he's too smart and he's not a killer. So he's like, he goes to another person and he says, "This is what I want to do. Do you know a hitman who can do the hit?" So this guy says, "I don't know anybody, but I know somebody who may know somebody." And so this is the guy we're investigating for stealing stuff. We have an undercover cop who's his pretend friend. So he goes to him, to an undercover cop, and says, "Do you know a hitman?" And now we're working from stolen goods to a murder investigation. So he says, yeah, I know somebody. And that's how the investigation started. So I moved from that. I said, I want to be in here. I want to be part of this. And so we had, I would say, a team of 30 or 40 people. This is how crazy it can get for investigation. 30 or 40 people, 6 to 8 months of investigation, wiretaps, investigation. Where does he walk? What time does he do it? We got people watching him. We got people watching the victim, supposed victim. We got why, the reverse engineering and all that stuff. So anyways, long story short, this person, let's call it the bad guy, is too smart. He doesn't pick up the phone and talk about it at all. Never. In those days, let's say if there were phones, they were the big ones, the analog ones. So very few people had those phones. So it's basically landlines. So he would not call the line. So anytime he met his friend, it was always he drove to him in a secluded area. There's no CCTV cameras outside, and he would tell them, "This is what." We finally basically said to him, "Yeah, it would cost this much money. We know somebody." And this guy says, bad guy says, "I don't want to deal with the bad guy or anybody indirectly or directly. I just want to deal with you. You take care of everything and I'll pay you, and that's it. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be like that." So now our biggest problem was we had everything, conspiracy to commit murder, basically. But we cannot prove that it's him. We can prove this guy did it, not this guy, because this guy is the one who came and said, "Do you know hitman?" So now you're sitting there and thinking, how do you do this? Because you don't want to do all this work. And on technicality, he gets released, which happens in Canada and US, is like no innocent person can ever or should be convicted. I'm sure there are people who do, but I'm just saying that would be a very, very small group of people. So the burden of proof is not that I didn't do it. Its burden is on the state to say, you did it beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest level of proof in the court to do that. And all we have to do is raise a doubt, a small doubt, in the beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge has to throw it out. So we can't risk that at all. It would be a lot of stuff. So how do you do it? So I remember being with my officers in a boardroom with a vision board, sitting there for hours, and then boom, something would come up and say, "Hey, let's do it this way, or let's do it that way." So what we did was we said, okay, The guy's like, but I want to see a photo of a dead body.
Why?
Because he's paying the hitman.
Oh, okay.
He wants to make sure the
Okay.
job is done.
Okay. All right.
And that's not abnormal, actually. Because then if he didn't want that, we could have just, the hitman, so we found a police hitman who could have said, oh, it's done, believe me, and now give me the money, right? So he's like, no, I want to see the photo. So he tells him, so it's like this person needs to take a photo to this person needs to take a photo to that person, and no one talks on the phone. So we can't do it. So we're wiretapping his phone. We're tapping his phone. We're tapping like 10, 20 other people's phone, because they call each other, their daughters, whatever. Maybe they'll say something to their wife or something like that. We're tapping everybody's phone. Nobody's saying anything because he only knows it, and he's so smart, intelligent, educated, rich that he's not going to say it. But he wants the job done. So how do you charge him for the purpose of convicting him? In Canada, we're not supposed to just charge. We're supposed to figure out if there's going to be conviction or not, most likely. So we just sat in there. So basically what we did was we didn't want to tell the victim about this. Now we have no choice. So we go to a victim, we sit them down, his wife down, his kids, like, go away. And we said, we were going to tell you something. And he thought it was his buddy, his friend. I said, well, your buddy is actually wanting to kill you.
Wow.
And he's like, what? He goes, you borrowed some money? He goes, he would kill me for money? Like, he didn't even think that would be, come across his mind. And he said, yes. And we're the police, so don't worry, right? And what we ended up doing, we hired a film a person that did a bullet, hair in the middle. And to the point where if you look at it, it looked like a depth, like bullet went in. Just like a movie decorator or whatever.
Like a makeup artist.
Makeup artist, yeah. But they bought a murder makeup artist. Took him, and then they kind of depicted the idea. They threw him in the trunk of a car with the trunk open and picture him dying with a bullet in his head. And then, then he got up and of course washed his face. And then we told him, you cannot ever be seen for the next whatever time, anywhere, because this would all jeopardize the entire case. If anybody even sees you for a second, the other guy might know that this is not it, right? So we had to take care of that. And then the wife, listen, you cannot talk to anybody, cannot tell them. Now imagine this: wife has to act that her husband just got shot. It's like crazy. But we ended up doing it. We said, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna and so what we needed for proof was him saying and him giving the money to the hitman for the charges of conspiracy to commit murder and other charges as well, which was hard to now. So we have one part. Now, problem was we have one person that we're paying money to, but that person is not the bad guy. He's going to get charged, but this is the main guy. So how do you get him to do it with Canadian laws? How do you do that? And so we sat there. Finally, we came up with a plan. And plan was very simple. We had the hitman call this guy. And he says, you don't know who I am, but I've done my job. You saw the photo. I didn't get the money. You have 2 hours or else click. So the mistake he did was, that was the whole idea actually. He picks up the phone, calls his friend, and we're taping both of them. And that's where the confession was. Oh my God, how come you told me I'm not going to be involved. I told you before I did the hitman, and he went on and on because for him it was a stress that he had to relieve, right? And he just basically gave us the best confession. and then basically now that he did that, then all we had to do was collect the money or him to collect them. So the money has to exchange. to even make it better proof. So then this guy gave the money to this guy who went to a farm. In a farm, they hid the money somewhere, and then they gave the address. But we are tracking him. We're tracking everybody, and then put it all together, right? And then we can prove that the money came from this house, and then somebody is giving the bag to this guy, and then that guy took the bag and then put it in there. And each of them have fingerprints, and they have videos of everybody doing it, and then they all got arrested.
Wow.
That is not what's depicted in real movies.
Yeah.
That's, if you look at it, it's like a huge police hidden places. Like if in Canada, if you drive around, even Canadians, when they drive around certain buildings, you won't even know it's a police station. It'd be like ABC Corporation. And everybody would walk into it as a businessman. And once they walk into as a businessman, then they go inside. And if they need to change uniform, they do it. Otherwise, they don't put on, they walk in with t-shirts. So people think there's a corporation going on. So people can be living there for all their lives. How do I know that? Because I didn't know. Until one day, they called me.
New clips released at the same time that a podcast releases. This is TRS Clips. Make sure you subscribe.